Please welcome to the show, military veteran and progressive, Josh Cameron.
Hey, man.
How you doing, dude? It's been a while.
Dude, it has been a while. Hey, so I do want to make maybe something off color, right? You said, suck it. There was do you ever heard of the metal band Grim Reaper? You ever heard of them?
I
Their
think so.
vocalist was like this fat guy. Like, you ever watched Headbangers Ball like I did?
Maybe I was never that big into metal, but
Okay. Well, yeah, they had a suck it in C. I got in trouble with that. Like yeah, yeah, my brother was like showing my mom, like, look at what Josh was listening to. But well, yeah, man. So you had me on a couple of years ago. I really appreciate it. You're right. And this is one of the things, dude, that I love. Part of what I love about like what you do, especially, right? Just kind of that CIA tube, right? Part of like, especially listening to you and Lee, just kind of just make jokes of some of the scariest things imaginable, man. And
yes.
it helps me like understand it, man. And it helps it not be overwhelming. It's like, oh, that's right. I'm allowed to laugh. And this is an existential crisis, but I don't need to punch myself in the head like it's on fire like every second of the day.
I appreciate that. That's why, I mean, one of the reasons why Lee and I and Ron, but like, especially with government secrets, why we have to make jokes is because it is pretty gnarly. I mean, it's pretty brutal what's happening. And I don't know what else to do because, I mean, just for my own mental health and physical health, laughing is just from a physiological level is better than getting mad. I mean, getting angry is not good for your body. So it's like,
Not.
I might as well just laugh about it because I don't know what else to do. But you reached out and I'm glad that you did because you are running for office. So
I
tell
am.
us, and you're not running as a Democrat, which is the
No,
only reason I would have you on the show. Because I would never, I don't have no more progressive Democrats because
I love it.
God bless them.
Sure.
But, and many of them I'm sure have the purest of intentions. But once you get inside that party, forget it. You'll either acquiesce like the squad has done, or you'll be forced to leave like Paula Jean Swearengin has done. And I'm glad she left and defected to the People's Party. I wish more Democrats would do that. But anyway, tell us where you're running and who you're running with and what your whole platform is.
So I'm going to be running in my local House district here in Utah. My So a lot has changed in my life. One, right, gone through a pandemic, right? You all, also have,
We all
suffered
have.
through.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we're in a place where y- part of, coming back to humor, part of the most important thing about humor is that if you can't laugh at yourself, well, that's like that should then let you know that sense of taking yourself so seriously, you need to step the f back, man. There's something going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're fraying and you're separating at the seams, and now you're probably destroying your own message. And I found myself in that same place. And so, say even something that, come back to progressives, God bless her heart, man. Joy Marie Mann, are you familiar with her? She put on the Medicare for All marches. I had like 31, man. I had like 31 marches across like that's incredible. Whether you agree with her marches or not, man. Like, to have that political will. Dude, I gave her like the most tepid pushback, and she lost her mind out on me, man, and started like freaking out on me and swearing at me. It's just like, come on, man. Like, we don't need that. And so if your political goals are getting to a place where like you're devouring people who are supposed to help you out, and actually want to listen to what you have to say, well, you're probably alienating the very people that you need to like
Mm-hmm.
to help out, right? This is one of the things that I believe I heard you, I know I've heard Jimmy Dore talk about, is this idea that like we're gonna unite across the working class, except for you, because you said some meany things, except for you, because like you said something problematic 15 years ago, except for
Mm-hmm.
you, because, and whatever that is, and then like the 15 of us left, right? Let's go. Um, so I had to unpack a lot of the naive dipshittery, right, that I had within myself. A lot of that came from resentment, right, of my own, right. Isaac Asimov said that violence is the language of the incompetent. Well, I found myself in a pretty incompetent space, right. I had media telling me what a terrible garbage person I am because of my pallid skin. Um, and I, what do I do with that, right? Do I have a responsibility to do something because of who I am? I don't know. I followed that for a while as a Democrat. Democrats put me in a place where I thought I wanted to stand for working class values. Well, the only thing that I could do to be effective was to make sure that I stood within very well orchestrated color, like drawn out lines. And the second that I draw outside the lines, which is like what I'm known to do, man, well then they don't like want to hear anything of me, and that's a weird place for me to be in, right? Because I authentically want to help people out, but I have a weird background, right? I've driven over the road as a truck driver. I've worked in oil and gas in eastern Utah. I've worked in pediatric medical research for 4 years. Dude, I had the chair of pediatrics, man, literally tell me that if I had a superpower, it's giving meaningful feedback and encouragement to others, right? And this
Mm.
is when we're going through a freaking pandemic. And like, hey, that's cool, man. Like, who's got more power than the chair of pediatrics? Yeah, the president of the university, and that's probably about it. Um, but then, like, so what? So I've got the superpower, but now what? What do I do with that? Well, now I took that from instead of being stifled at the University of Utah, I'm now working for a cybersecurity world leader. I'm now hiring professional staff, right? I don't, the, gone are the days of where like I sneer just for the critique for the sake of critique, because that's ridiculous, right? If you want to critique me, awesome, totally okay being critiqued. I certainly need it. But if you're gonna make fun of my dance moves and you ain't even gonna get on the dance floor, dude, shut up. Just shut up, right? You know what I mean? Um,
Right.
yeah. And so I'm at a place where like people are hurting, man. People are hurting, and there's a lot of BS going on. Right, Utah, we've got terrible air quality. We've also got a drying Great Salt Lake. As it dries, it's a terminal lake, so all the heavy metals and everything that deposits itself there then gets kicked up by our air.
Mhm.
So not only are we then breathing all this grossness, well, then by adding more water there and having water there, well, then it gives us the greatest snow on Earth. We, export 40% of the world's brine shrimp. Like we've got like, North America's only like, yeah, North America's only main, uh, distribution and production of magnesium, man. And so I recently interviewed a former gubernatorial candidate here in Utah, name of Zachary Moses, who also had a lot of pitchforks after him as he ran for as a Democrat, because he just doesn't believe in like dude, he has like a gay travel service. Like he literally has a gay travel service, and he just wasn't cool enough for the cool kids. And he says, I don't, and so, but he has this idea of having water pumps and water pumps in a pipeline, going from the ocean, going up to our, Sierra Nevadas, and having water come down, and having water go down, add to our saline lakes. Where the power comes from is the additional power that's sitting on rooftop solar that goes nowhere. Um, and then you can get federal credits, right, to help with this. And part of what that does is there's 7,700 jobs that are tied to the Great Salt Lake itself.
Mhm.
But then, like outside of that, again, if we've got our claim to fame, the best snow on Earth, well, that creates tens of thousands of jobs. And so there's a real economy there. Plus, we look pretty, man. We look pretty, right? And
Mhm.
like, who doesn't want to look pretty, man? Like, we're going through a pandemic. I want to look pretty. I don't know if you want to look pretty, Graham. I want to look pretty. Make Gotham pretty again, man.
So your campaign is water and being pretty.
Yeah, well, dude, we're the second. Yeah, dude, we're the second driest. We're the second driest state in the nation. Yeah,
Mm.
water. We got to
So
have
so
that
if I
kind of thing.
understand correctly, what do you want things you want to do is take all this snowfall that the state of Utah gets and kind of basically keep it and use it to help mitigate or even reverse the drought that you're having.
Well, so we are. The problem is that we actually catch too much of it, and so what usually happens. So because of the way that the basin is created, right? So we live in a basin. Let me get my camera right. And so, like, because of mountains, right, the clouds will hit, and like, just the way the water's going to trickle down is going to add to our saline lakes.
Mhm.
But if we capture that water before it has a chance to get there, well, then that lake is just going to have less and less water getting to it. And then what's at the bottom of a terminal lake is a bunch of heavy metals and stuff that we don't want to
Mhm.
breathe. And so it behooves us to look pretty. There's real benefits to looking pretty. Come to find out that, right, a vaccine, right, is certainly, a way to make you healthy. But come to find out, actually being healthy, right? Look at you, man. You're not overweight. You probably work out. You get after it, right? And they say that being overweight and being obese, I believe it was like 1.5 time like mortality all across, across all counts. But being just from, grossly just like a typical American, to just being average, man, and having an average, a kind of mediocre level of fitness, has about double that effect into the good. And it's where the majority of the good that you can do, and an overall reduction in mortality. And
Mhm.
so, we can reduce mortality in air that we breathe, right? We're having a mortality conversation with vaccines. If we can reduce mortality by making sure that we actually have water to drink, Utah is going to double in population by 2050. So there's real conversations we've got to have. And if you have a tech nerd like me, right, and we actually believe in American exceptionalism, right? You said I'm a vet. Well, let's figure that out, man. Let's not say that, hey, we have American exceptionalism except for this one problem that we just can't solve because
Mhm.
we were exceptional until this problem, right? Well, if we actually believe what we say that we believe, well, then let's freaking put our money where our mouth is. And this is
And
where I
so
think. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so you're running for, forgive me, for state assembly or for Congress or
Yeah, so it's gonna be state house office, right?
okay, state house
Here in
office.
this. Yep.
Um, so yeah, that these kind of issues on the local level are significant, and I think
Yes.
while to globally reverse climate change, uh, it'll need a top-down solution, but locally, it's going to take city councils and state assemblies to make this kind of stuff happen because the one thing we know is and you're giving a prime example so each area, each region, each state has its own sort of unique circumstances and what you're talking about the lake not getting enough water and having minerals being released and how if I understand correctly the snowfall is not going back into the lakes enough, it's just going to the population,
Right.
right? So then how are you and if you get elected to the Utah State Assembly,
Mhm.
what specific things are you going to put in place or bills you're going to push or whatever that can help with these various issues that you just pointed out?
Yeah, I love that. Great question. Great question. Yeah, where's the rubber meet the road? Yeah,
Mhm.
are you just making stuff up? So, there's a few things that I'd really like to get people really excited about. One is plastic roads, baby. Plastic roads, right, dude? We're choking our oceans, man. We got three island size, of Texas size islands in our freaking oceans, man, of plastic.
5.
Is it
You have
5? My
5
God, is
islands
it
of
5?
floating
Oh my God,
garbage.
dude. I try not to be as dystopian, Graham, but here I am. I guess I'm in the wrong place. I'm in the wrong place. So there's 5 islands, Texas-sized islands, right? And so here in Utah, about 40 miles south of me is a place called Lehigh. Lehigh is the tech startup of America, man. The fastest tech startup of America. And so we have a real opportunity to, rejuvenate an economy that actually helps people, right? We can actually create jobs that actually pay people, like you don't have to like starve and like, hey, let's get you a job so then we can get you on welfare benefits. That sounds great.
Mhm.
Like, let's actually get you a job to where you can have some sort of like meaningful purpose, right? When I joined the army, I had a place, right? I had a place in society, man. Like maybe we can have a CCC. Dude, Utah, guess who broke for FDR? All 4 times, bro. All 4 times.
Mhm.
Utah. Dude, we stand for family values, man.
Well, that's the thing too, and this is where the Democratic Party has failed so much. Is if the Democratic Party were to stay with the ideals of FDR from whatever that would be 90 years ago, 80 years ago, uh, and was the party of working people and the actual party of unions, not just the lip service party, and uh, the Democratic Party would never lose, but both parties, the Democrats and Republicans, have been hijacked in the last 4 or 5 decades by massive corporations. So
Yep.
both parties get money from all these huge corporations, and both parties are not serving the people. The Republicans and the Democrats only care about their donors. They don't care. They need the voters to keep them in power so that they can get money from the donors. And the
The
donors,
beautiful thing about Republicans is they're more Democratic than Democrats, man. They really are. Like they really are. They don't have super delegates, and they may have their own ways of looking at the world, and they certainly do. The thing is they will allow the winner of their voices to. I mean, look at the way that they said, okay, well, look at obviously the people want Donald Trump, and they let him have the reins. I don't know that was the best thing for our country, but as far as a democratic process, there was a lot of people who said, "Hey, I support him." Now, where I'm going to find a lot of flack with people within the Republican Party is that, right? I don't want a king.
so you're
I don't
running as
want
a Republican.
Yeah, I'm running as a Republican. I
Okay.
don't want a king, man. I do not want a king, right? I do have a meaningful you know, uh, idea of like God and like this archetype of Jesus, of like the greatest idea of what I could be, and that be a king. I'm cool with that being a king, man. But like a
Mhm.
president or like somebody like a person, especially somebody who's like the living embodiment of Joffrey Baratheon as my king, man. Are you out of your mind? A guy who raised $70 million off Stop the Steal and then spent like zero pennies, man, zero, none. And then like,
Okay.
so this is gross. This is so gross. So I don't want a king, and I want it. So coming back to what you asked before, I go on it. I'm so sorry, but I want to get people inspired by plastic roads, graphene. Mass production of graphene can actually create membranes that can desalinate water.
Okay.
So then we can also start desalinating, something that we're going to need in the second dry state in the nation, that is also going to double its population by 2050. And then, like, how do you affect, you know, climate change, whatever? Dude, ideas, man. Republicans, Democrats, right? Ideas aren't constrained by red or blue shirts. They just aren't. And so if you actually have a good idea, what we think globally, act locally, and expand.
So let me ask you this question, because I personally don't think it's possible to reform either party from within. Um, so what are you going to do when, let's say, you get elected? Okay. And obviously, I understand Utah, very, very red state. So if you were to
Mhm.
run as a Democrat, that's no one would care. No, like you probably wouldn't have any chance of winning. Um,
There's some
and
places, but yeah,
some places, but more than likely you wouldn't stand a
right,
chance. You probably would have a better chance as running as a libertarian or a People's Party than you would as a Democrat.
for sure.
Um, so I understand the, like, okay, you want to run as a Republican. And what do you do though? Let's say
Mhm.
you get elected and you
Yeah.
have, so you believe in climate change. There's numerous people within the Republican Party that flat out don't. I mean, Trump's
Mhm.
whole cabinet was climate change deniers. Um, and while the oil fossil fuels give to Republicans and Democrats pretty equally, the Democrats will say, we believe in climate change. And our solution is to, put a green leaf sticker on an oil rig. Like that's the
Dude,
Democrats' solution. While the
dude, for real.
Republicans,
Right, the rainbow sticker on the bombs too.
yeah, yeah,
Yay! Right,
the
with
rainbow
like the
sticker,
SpongeBob like happy hands with the
diversity.
rainbow.
So let's say you get in and the Republican Party starts leaning on you. Well, wait a minute now. We get money from the mining companies,
Sure.
especially in Utah. We get money from the
Yeah.
oil companies. You need to dial this climate change rhetoric down a little bit. What are you going to do?
Sure. So the thing is like I don't really like giving in to people trying to trap me in their own like frame of narrative.
Mhm.
So like first off, like climate change, like well, the people who really say that often, like, "Hey, you're gonna hurt the economy because of your climate change," or whatever that is, often have a conflict of interest. Doesn't necessarily mean they're lying. They have a conflict of interest. This is one of the
Mhm.
great benefits that I have working in pediatric medical research for as long as I have, is that I understand what it is to have to be upfront with a conflict of interest. And if you aren't, and you actually have a financial conflict of interest and you aren't upfront in public about that, well, then your ass should be fired, man. And you should be taken over the coals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have an authentic conversation. Like, here's the thing, like, people like have lost their minds over somebody who I admire how to think. I don't really care about his what to think. So Jordan Peterson, anytime he talks about socialism, man, like, kind of roll my eyes a little bit, because, like, somebody will come on and be like, Venezuela, oh, sorry, they add the enye, Venezuela, right? They're the, look at that, that's a real problem of, socialist economies. And look at Cuba, that tiny little country, right? They suck so hard that the giant, the biggest, economy in the world has to lean on them to prove that they're a failed state. And so, like, let's have an honest conversation, right? Part of this is, like, having comedy, right? And being, and, like, not being afraid of comedians, helps, I think, inoculate me in a way, in the sense that, like, i- i- if you come at me and I can make a joke and you laugh, well, now, like, hey, we're taking a step back. And so I used to do this in pediatric medical outpatient data, man. My the main people I had to talk to, right? My main stakeholders are
Mhm.
an MD who's in charge of an entire team of other MDs, and then his administrative manager. So the first thing I do is figure out who my stakeholders are. What pop culture reference am I going to get that's not going to go over your head? How do I make you laugh? Now you actually care about what I'm talking about. Versus people who are just like, hey, I have all the right ideas and I'm not going to be a dickhead to you and I'm going to alienate you no matter what. And so, like, even if I agree with you, if you're a dickhead, man, I don't want to work with you. And so, like, part of it is that I just want to be that authentic and sincere. Am I going to be wrong? Yeah, man. Yeah, of course. I'm a dude, right? Am I going to be called out? Sure, right. And so my campaign manager has actually, like, straight up asked me, hey, man, some of this, right, stuff that you've got in your back, in your back history, like, could you make that go away? Well, sure. Yeah, I mean, sure I could. But the thing is I want people to actually see, like, what does it mean to be an authentic person? And to me, that's actually most important. And so I've actually started a YouTube channel called Towards Goodness. It's like, hey, how do we stoically, like, be better? And so part of the campaign is also not just, like, having a way of, like, making Utah pretty, but, like, how do we get out of this, like, where we base human value off of quarterly profit indexes? Like, oh man, how about some 30, 50, 100 year, right, profit indexes? I like that, man. Some generational profit indexes. And then, like, are there profit sharing motives that we can implement to actually help rescue people from a nihilistic environment. And then no longer are we in a place where it's like, hey, Graham, what do you want to do, 9-year-old Graham, when you grow up? Well, fuck, man, I don't know. What do I want to do when I grow up? Well, now we're going to hold you to this standard. Like, what if we actually create something, again, like the CCC, and actually help you? Like, hey, look, we know that you want to put food on the table for your family. These are the skills you have. Well, let's figure out, like, where you're, like, adaptable, and let's actually give you a hand up, not a handout, a hand up, right? Because we're also gonna expect you to pay taxes on your income. But now we're gonna make you a productive member of society, and then you also have disposable income. And, like, Nick Hanauer, right, the billionaire, talks about, like, if consumers have more money, well, you know what? They're actually going out and buying things. And if they're going out and buying things, well, guess what? Billionaires have more money. But right now, billionaires are like vampires, man, and they're just trying to, like, just siphon everything up for themselves, and just like these ghoulish, like Nosferatu, like, in the shadows. And so I hope to shine a light, dude. Can I shine a light? Awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, okay. The thing though that I just worry about, because I just seen it time and time again, is
Yeah.
let's say you're running, let's say one of these mining companies or a fracking company or whatever
Mhm.
says, we're going to give you a bunch of money to help you get into office. And then when you're in office, you know what that means? They're going to need you to vote in favor of this bill that we need you to sign these permits, to let us
Sure.
frack and drill and everything else. What
Right.
are you going to do then?
Uranium mining.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm gonna have to, like, if they offer me the money, chances are I'm not going to be the person that they're going to like reach out to offer the money. If they do offer the money, like it's going to be one of those things like, well, look, dude, I'm happy to use your money to make Utah better, but I'm not going to be like I can't be a toady, man. And this is part of like what literally drove me away from the Democratic Party. And I even have an op-ed, dude. I've got 5 different editorials and letters to the editor in the 2 largest newspapers here in Utah. The Salt Lake Tribune and the Deseret News, and literally why I left the Democratic Party. Like when I was part of trying to help people is just literally like, no, whitey, shut up. Like if you're a white dude, you literally need to shut up and let people stand on your back. I'm like, well, I don't get that approach. That's stupid. And now here I was also, I talked about my own naive dipshittery. I thought that I was like, hey, if you have, if you love guns more than anything, right? Maybe there's something wrong with you. And then I see what's going on in Australia right now. I was like, oh, this is why you guys love guns so much. So maybe the people that I need to be most afraid of are the people who put a loaded gun in their coat closet, then leaving a child to then blow the brains off of some randy family member. But guns are actually something that could keep us safe. And so again,
What's happening in Australia right now? Because I keep seeing NRA people talk
uh,
about, oh, Australia. And then I talk to my friends in Australia and they have no
uh,
idea what they're
So it's
talking about.
like just like half the nation being on lockdown, right?
Uh-huh.
My understanding, half the nation just going on lockdown. I just don't see that happening in outside of California. California went on lockdown. New York could maybe go on lockdown. I don't see the like half the nation going on lockdown. I just don't see that happening.
And so,
I also go ahead.
so then if I understand correctly, if they all had guns, they wouldn't go on lockdown. Is that the thinking?
Part of it is that they are actually going door to door to see if you're actually unvaccinated. And so, are you going to go door to door and be like, "Hey, we're going to actually take you to jail if you're unvaccinated"? And so these are not. This is not countrywide. But
Yeah, because the whole country. I mean, that was a brief thing in 2 different cities. I
yep.
think I don't even think it was nationwide. And
But
then
the thing is, like,
also,
we've got more guns in this country than people, and the idea that they would do that, go like knocking door to door, be like, "Are you unvaccinated? You might get a cold from Omicron." Like that just, and so like there might be something to this idea that again, like is Anthony Fauci lying? I don't know. Does he have a conflict of interest? Yes. Does that
Mhm.
make me trust him? No. Is that a non-starter? Yes. And therein lies my biggest problem. And so if you're coming to me as a mining company and you've got a conflict of interest, well, I need you to disclose that. Let's talk about that conflict of interest. If you're oil
Mhm.
and gas, do you have a conflict of interest? Let's discuss that, right? This is on the public record. And so I'm in a place now where, like, praise the Lord, that I can actually make money to hire my own staff to actually insulate me from these ghouls. So I can actually be, like I'm spending my own money, man. I've already, pumped about $10,000 into creating my own YouTube channel, hiring campaign staff, hiring data peeps, because this is serious, man. Because I'm like the people who are just sitting back and like just typing away on Facebook. Yeah, I'm tired of it, man. I'm tired of it. Like let's inspire some people. Let's actually get some people. I'm a video gamer too, and I played World of Warcraft for years. Like let's actually get these people who have real skills who are wasting them away and put them in a place where they can actually give back to the country.
Mhm. Yeah, and then if the Republican Party forces you to vote for whatever, any some of their family values stuff, like,
So this is actually a really so I love that you brought that up. So this is I've actually been thinking about this, man, like hardcore, because the thing is like again, I'm sincere and authentic. So I'm not convinced, even though like the entire Republican Party is, I'm not convinced that striking down Roe v. Wade is actually in the Republicans' best interest, especially now, right? Before I couldn't make this argument, but now I can make this argument. And so what I mean by that is that so uh, OSHA, so the Supreme Court shot down OSHA. OSHA can't go ahead and push the vaccine because the disease, right? COVID doesn't itself present a threat that's inherent just to the workforce. So OSHA can't do it. Okay, well, OSHA can't do it. So they set precedent that they can't do it with their workforce, but they set the precedent that it's got to be somewhere specific to that environment. Well, okay, what about being an American? Okay, well, like now that we've got a place where, the largest podcast in the world that's actually talking to the most, right, educated people in the world, whether you agree with them or not, right? They're still the most educated people in the world, right? Joe Rogan's being canceled by Jeff Bezos, who's like the living embodiment of Lex Luthor. Like, come on, guys, right? We're supposed to be like against this. Like regular people are not supposed to like Lex Luthor. Like that was the thing, man. I grew up reading Superman, man. I grew up like watching these comics. Regular people aren't supposed to like Lex Luthor, right? Wall Street goons like Lex Luthor. And so the world where Lex Luthor takes us is the world where Joaquin Phoenix, right, really showed us. And I want to save us from that, man. Man, I really want to save us from the fire. Um, and I see that's where we're headed. Whether it be scared people rioting in the streets in Minnesota or scared people rioting in the streets in Washington, D.C., there's a lot of fear, man. And, Yoda taught us that fear leads to anger and anger leads to hatred. And if we've got Space Force, well, you know what? Maybe we could actually align and we could connect people through Star Trek, Star Wars. And instead of just pew 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 pew, we're gonna need an enemy, right? The only reason why we made it to, and this, Lee Camp knows this. The only reason why we made it to the moon first is because we were like scared of Russia getting there first. Well, okay, well let's actually go and explore space before China gets there, man. Let's figure out. Yeah, China's a boogeyman. Hell yeah, they are. Yeah, China's a boogeyman where they could cut off our antibiotics. Yeah, well, that scares me. They could cut off our, semiconductor supply. That also scares me. And so, like, what if we could actually give people an environment where they aren't starving for help? They're not desperate. They're not crying out and like desperate plea for like Maslow's like bottom three levels of their hierarchy, but we can actually start providing that, right? And then we can help them figure out on their own, right, where 4 and 5 go. Um, and that's my biggest thing. So people are more than welcome to lean on me, right? I'm certainly welcome to be wrong, right? I need to learn. I'm only 41. I've learned a lot in my 41 years here on this earth, but I've got more to learn. And so I have not been leaned on by a mining company, so I could sit here and tell you exactly what I do. But dude, I don't know, man. I have an idea of what I
Mhm.
do, but ultimately, I hope that my values and my sincerity and authenticity will allow me to have an honest conversation and just demand that, well, where are there the conflicts of interest? Because that's really what's most important.
All right, man. I applaud you for saying some of that stuff. It feels like your message might be a little spread out. Um, but you know, I don't I don't have much faith in anybody reforming either of
I'm
these
not
parties
trying to
from within.
I'm not
But I
trying to
hope.
reform the party. If anything, I'm trying to you get a snake to shed its skills, right? And so, like, if something comes of this, right? Maybe there's maybe I figure out a wing, right? Maybe there's a Tea Party wing that I join, right? And not like a crazy, like, unauthentic people and insincere people. But like, that's fine, man. Whatever that is, I'm okay with like something being redefined. But again, like the Republicans are the ones who seem to listen to their voters more than the Democrats. The Democrats are inherently like they are just dude, they are determined to just rub your nose in a bowl of steaming pie. Like what was it Nina Turner said, right? Half a bowl of oh man, half a bowl of shit, right? Isn't that what she said? That's what Biden was.
Why didn't you run with like People's Party or just as an independent?
Because like again, man, I'm less interested in virtue signaling. I think if I'm gonna run as a People's Party here in Utah, I'm virtue signaling, man. Right? If
How?
I truly yeah, I mean, how? Like, I mean, there's no power. There's just really no power, man. There's no power there. And so right now, like Republican, the way it is, like it or not, whether I like it or not, man, Republicans are where the power's at. Democrats are ridiculous. I know this because I was a Democratic Utah local state delegate for 4 freaking years, and the party is ridiculous, man. So I found a lot of admiration in people who can get things done even if they're not moving in the right direction, at least they're moving, and at least they can decide to like back a plan. Democrats don't even know who to back, who their enemy is, who their friends are, And so like the idea that they can get behind something, that's cool. So what if like how do I then calibrate that and get them behind something that actually feeds back and helps the American public? So like when I was like serving at war, to help people, like, we were supposed to help, that which is most important, which is the people, because without the people, we don't have a freaking country. And so, like, how do we feed back into that? And again, like, inspire people. Let's do Space Force. Again, Utah, fastest growing tech startup industry in the country, second driest state in the nation. Let's get that tech startup, get a moonshot to create graphene, get some desalinization of water going on a mass level. Let's figure out, some, yeah. Anyway, I could go on and on and on, man. Like
Sure.
Great
Well,
Salt Lake beauty.
I mean, if you can get the Utah Republicans to start enacting a positive climate policy, I mean, hats off. I don't think you can personally, but I'd love to be proven wrong.
If you packaged it that way, no. If you package it in a way of just like, of the way that it makes the party stronger, makes families stronger, makes Utah stronger, I think it's possible. But yeah.
Okay. Well, best of luck, my friend. I appreciate you
Thanks, man.
taking time to come on the show.
No, dude, I appreciate the skepticism too.
No problem, man. I've been trying to get more people on the show that I might not agree with 100%. So I'm just curious. I don't want to like have arguments, even though that gets clicks. Like yelling arguments gets clicks. I'm not going to
Yeah.
chase those clicks in that way. But I want to hear what a different point of view is. And I knew you were, worked a lot with the Democratic Party, and I wanted to hear why you're leaving, or have left, I should say.
Yeah.
And how you think you can change or at least be effective within the Republican Party in Utah. But
So
I mean,
I realized, biggest thing, biggest takeaway, I realized if you're not community building, you're full of shit, man. Straight up. So like part of that is I started going to the Mormon churches, man. I literally, dude, 2021 was the worst year of my life, transformed into the best year of my life. I started having visions, man. Visions in my head. Maybe this is what Socrates said when he had a voice. He said he had a voice that allowed him to be his best self. I don't think that's much different than what Christians would call the voice of God. But I had a vision that said, "Hey, I should do this thing, not in words, but in like, that I'm supposed to like translate." I started doing that thing, and lo and behold, within 3 months of me being told by the guy second under from the president of the university that if I had a superpower, it's giving meaningful feedback and encouragement to others, I'm now making 5 times as much money as I was in a place where I can actually hire staff and I can start propagating these ideas and goodness, born from the grace of God, man. And so, like, why do I think I'll be successful? Well, I mean, I feel like I've got, I truly think I've got a vision, man. I think I've got a real vision that people can identify behind, and I welcome, I welcome the hatred, I welcome the skepticism because, like, I'm not afraid of, I'm not afraid of it.
well, I mean, I applaud you. I mean, it's a conversation I've had numerous times in this show. JB Updike from Open Primaries was on the show, and we talked about he's like the left needs to get over it's I guess virtue signaling, or not virtue signaling, but just like absolutism. And he's like, we need to reach out and and find common ground with people that we might not have common ground with on a bunch of other issues. So if you could market and sell, and effectively a Green New Deal for Utah that Republican voters would, I'm all for it. I'm all for
Yeah.
whatever solution prevents
All right,
the.
man. Yeah, put the burden on me to prove it, and I'll circle back around to you, man, when I start proving it, and then we
I,
can have part 2 of this conversation. I'd love
and
it.
if you can, I'd love. I mean, if you can, more power to you, man. Because to me, it's like if we don't fix climate change, it's over. It doesn't
Sure.
matter. You can fix everything else. You can fix any other issue, fix everything else. But if you don't fix climate change, we are done, and it is collapsing at an alarming rate. So if you can get it done or help get it done in Utah, and get red state voters who've been propagandized to think climate change isn't real, and just
Well, or
let's say
blue
like
state
blue
voters
state
have been
voters.
propagandized that like slapping a leaf on a
Yeah.
shitty industry is somehow good, right?
No, that's
Yeah.
the blue state voters have been propagandized to think that incremental centrism can work. Like, you know what I mean? And just like, well, Joe Biden's climate policy is better than Trump's. And it's like, sure, all he bought, like if Trump would have been reelected, we'd all be dead by 2040. But with Biden, it's 2045.
Yeah.
Like that's that.
Yeah.
And blue state voters are suckers, thinking that incremental centrism is winner, and they're all the lesser of two evils crowd. And it's that's mind numbing to me. So if anyone can get some actual shit on the books and get it done, then I'm all for it. However it gets done.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, I love that, man. I love that attitude. And yeah, put the burden on me, man. I expect to prove it. And I'd be more than happy to provide a meaningful example for others to do the same.
great. Well, thank you. And if people want to learn more about your campaign and everything, where would they go?
So best thing right now, because I'm not quite ready to announce the exact office, right? I hire professional staff to make sure I'm not stupid. And so my campaign manager, we will be announcing this month. Best thing to do is follow my YouTube channel. It's called Towards Goodness. And this will really let you know what I'm about. I interview people to let you know my long form thoughts. I also I'm a secularist, right? I believe in science. I'm a secular guy, but you know what? God is cool with me, man. And so I take you through the ideas like, what does that even mean? Okay, well, and so that way, like, you've got a YouTube channel to see like what I even stand for, and that way you can sniff me out and be like, hey, this guy's stupid, or hey, this guy's actually pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, folks, give it a shot. Check him out. And if you live in Utah, and see what he's about. Well, Josh, thank you so much for reaching out, man. It's good to connect with you, and good luck.
Dude, thanks, man. I appreciate it, and may the force be with you, good sir.
I know I'm just mixing two different.
Well, and then that's my handicap, man. I can't do it. If I was ever in a place where like Vulcans are like, that guy doesn't live long and prosper. Kill that guy. He doesn't. No, I swear, I live long and prosper, man. I can't do it.
But Star Wars and Star Trek both had fantastic messages that impacted me as a kid. So I'm all for it. All right, my friend, you have a great afternoon, and we'll hopefully talk to you soon.
Thanks, man. You too. Take care.
All right, brother. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. We are still in our 9th month of demonetization from YouTube. So support what we're doing at patreon.com/Graham Elwood or rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, which is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. It's free to sign up, and there's a premium level at $10 a month. And for that, you get everybody on the platform's premium content. Myself, Lee Camp, Ron Placone, Jimmy Dore, Whitney Webb, Kim Iverson, Abby Martin, and many, many others. You can also support what we're doing at Venmo at Graham-Elwood, and go to GrahamElwood.com. We have a PayPal button and a PO box. I also have crypto wallets, which are all in the show notes. Thanks for supporting what we do.